Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to this week's episode of the Create Your Happy podcast. I am super thrilled to have with me today Delisa Abraham. Now, Delisa and her daughter are a force to be reckoned with. Delisa is the Chief Operating Officer of Faith and Sparkles World. Delisa is also a speaker, mentor, and researcher. And together with her daughter Faith and their pup Sparkles, this power trio, has been helping people to overcome the perceptions about young entrepreneurs and how they can share their gifts and talents. So welcome to the show, Delisa. I would love to just really dive right into your story. And I know that we have tons to talk about here about parenting on a conscious basis and empowering our children to go out there and change the world.
Yes, thank you so very much for having me on, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. So my name is Delisa, and how this started really was when I was first pregnant, and I wanted to know the direction I wanted to raise my child in. So my role as a researcher, and of course my experience from many, many moons ago, that dove me into, what school do I want to get into? How do people raise their children? How do successful people raise their children? And I looked at different countries, the ancient ways. I looked at my own life and my parents, my grandparents, and all of these areas. And I put it together. And here we are.
I think that's honestly brilliant, because I think most people, and I realize I'm definitely generalizing here, but I'm one of these people that I'm lumping into this category, don't actually do a lot of research into parenting until they become one, and then they're having a challenge that they need to overcome. I mean, sure, we all read the What to Expect When You're Expecting book, but there is no what to expect for the whole parenting journey book. It's not a one book fits all those answers, right? So first of all, I applaud you for doing the research and doing that legwork ahead of becoming a parent, because that changes everything, right? Those first years of a child's life are so significant. And I will say that if I could go back and I knew what I know now about how important those first 6 to 7 years are, I would have done some things a bit differently, perhaps with my children, because it is so crucial. I'd love for you to share a little bit more maybe about your findings, about what you discovered, before maybe having kids that really got you in the right space to be a parent.
That's an actually excellent question, and one that I do not get very often. So one of the things that I found was that, and we're all aware of it, most of us, I should say, is aware of it when we're either reading the books or doing our own light research, is that a child's mind is developing. There's continued developing. It's always learning, especially in the womb. So I started when I found out that I was pregnant. And one of the things I did, and I continued to do after she was born, was speak life-giving words over her. That was one of the things. And the other part was making sure that, okay, what do I want her to learn, right? And people talk about that positive affirmations. Those are there, but really having that energetic shift within yourself as well to pass on to your child. And so when Faith was born, one of the things that I did specifically was make sure that I even had life-giving words spoken over her. I couldn't, you're not always there doing those things, right? Like, you are powerful, you are worthy. They're all great things. But then I would have on either a CD, if people still use CDs, or the YouTube in the house, and I would put it in the heart of the home, the center of the home. So not only myself is hearing it, she's hearing it, the home is hearing it. So I could raise that vibration. And so she's knowing right from the first day, the second day she comes in the house, who you are. She's forming her identity in the womb as well as out of the womb, that continuation.
That's incredible. And that is a level of intention that I think most parents, again, I'm lumping here, and I know there are incredible parents out there, and that we are all ultimately doing the best that we can with the resources and understanding that we have. Now, I know that I could have done better, so I will admit that in these areas over the duration of the parenting journey. But I don't know that we always, as humans, operate from the intentions that we truly desire, because so many of us are in survival mode, which means we're not acting on intentions. We're acting on autopilot, right? We are allowing, the subconscious and our past to drive us forward. And it's just a repeating pattern. It's not, necessarily going to have the outcome that we intend if we're not actually intentional about taking those steps. So I love that you were really intentional about, teaching her through your words, through the affirmations, through all of the language surrounding her, who she truly, who you desire for her to become, which is her fullest expression of herself, ultimately.
Yes.
So tell me what happened next. You're pregnant, you have this plan, and so she's a baby. Now what are you learning and discovering along the way? Because parenting is no easy gig.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. It is a challenge, and every day, doesn't matter how old they are, it is always a challenge. One of the things I started to recognize was that, so I did not read the What to Expect When You're Expecting. I didn't read any of those things. So I don't know what is in those books. But what I did do was take the things that I've learned, as well as my experience and looking at my own family lineage, how they were born. And I was like, okay, where do we need to shift? What is important for this moment, this time? So of course, that takes self-reflection on my part, a lot of letting go and forgiveness on my side, and an opportunity to recognize. And one of the things I had to do was recognize I am here to guide, support, love, and nurture this other human being. This person is not necessarily, it's mine, but not like that possessive mine. They are their own person. So I had to let go of that way of thinking, that perception, and recognize this is a full-on person here that is going to revolutionize the world, and my job is to guide and nurture. So I hope that answers the questions accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because when we have children, we are essentially very responsible for them. And so it's easy to get kind of trapped in this perspective of they're mine. And so I will exert my will on them, and I will raise them in the way that I want to do the things, right? And instead of recognizing, yes, okay, this is actually a whole human all on their own. And our role is not to control them or to shape them in the way that we desire. It is allowing that space, creating an environment in which their full potential can be realized. And that's a very different perspective than a lot of parents out there have. Again, we're not blaming or shaming. We are all doing the best we can. And so the awareness is the first step, so that we can see, okay, hold up a minute here, right? It's not my responsibility, nor does it work, to control my children. It's not about control. And the harder, in fact, any parents out there will notice, the harder you try and control them or, elicit a specific response, the more resistant they tend to be to that response. I mean, we're like that too as humans, right? So if someone really tells you what to do, I don't know about you, but I am kind of resistant very oftentimes to their suggestion, simply because I want to be an autonomous, sovereign being, not run by someone else.
That's right.
Yeah. So stepping into the role of parent, we have to recognize that they are sovereign in their own right, and so are we. And that what's most important is not what we're doing for them. That's crucial. It's important, but it's not that. It's what we're doing for ourselves that comes first. So tell me about how maybe you reparented yourself in this process, how you worked through any previous or past traumas, may they be big or small, so that you could get to this place of surrendering and letting go and, allowing your daughter to be her own sovereign being?
That took many years for me and like letting go.
It's a journey.
Yes, it is very much. And it's a continuous journey.
Yeah.
So I want everyone to recognize and understand that, because it's continuous. But one of the things I did do was recognize, who am I? You have to know yourself. That is one of the biggest keys. One of the other key thing is recognizing, what do I want? I know we all hear this in every area, but not only do you know who you are, but you have to know what you want. And it starts with yourself. And then when you know what you want, it's easier, may not be as easy, to release the things that do not serve you or that you do not want, right? And that's going to be painful and hard, because now you're stepping into something that is unknown, and nobody likes to step into the unknown.
That uncertainty can be terrifying, can't it?
Yes, exactly. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, stepping into the unknown. And then the third thing is making sure, we have those boundaries, the healthy boundaries, because as you're stepping into the unknown, you just don't want to be welcoming all kinds of things, because you don't want things that doesn't serve you to stick, right?
That's not a good place. That's not a place where we can live a life that is really good. And when we feel good, we are more able to hold that space for other people, to create from the intention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the third part was the boundaries. And after the boundaries came, it's like, okay, where do I need to improve? So I had to look at the strengths and the weakness. I knew what I was good at. And then I had to look at where am I weak, or where did I have hindrance from my parents or my grandparents. And it's no fault of their own, right? They did the best they could with what they had at that time based on the situation. So then I'd say, I didn't like this, I like that, right? So this is where the improvement comes in. And then, of course, going backwards to number 2 with knowing what you want. And that was a huge piece for me as well. And then forgiveness, willing to heal. And number 5, it's really just being in the flow. So each one in its own space it's a journey all within itself, and they all cycle back, forth. Sometimes you're at 1, sometimes you're at 3, sometimes you're at 5. So you guys all understand how it is. And so at the end of all of that, it's like, okay, I'm in a flow, and living in a flow means living in peace with yourself. And the biggest part of being in peace and in flow is releasing the things that no longer serve you. So even if you hear something negative, like, well, why are your children homeschooled? You're not bothered by that. Or you hear something negative, I think you should lose weight. You already had 3 kids, get back to, I don't know, when you were 16. You're like, no, you can use your voice. You can stand in your power, and you can say, I'm happy where I'm at, but thank you for sharing what you need to do in your life. I'm here to support you.
Well, recognizing that other people's perceptions and opinions don't need to define us is huge. And I also just want to say that I feel like the underpinning piece of the whole process of living authentically, which is essentially sort of what you've outlined, and actually very much flows with what I'm teaching in my current program, Authenticity Unleashed. The underpinning thing is self-compassion, right? Because that love for yourself is what allows the overflow to create love, unconditional love and acceptance for others as well. And we cannot really create that from, you can't pour from an empty cup sort of scenario. So if you don't have that self-compassion and self-love, it is very difficult to extend that to other people. And so that self-compassion, to me, that is the catalyst to the growth, to the expansion, to creating the life that you truly deserve, the happy life, relationship, business experience as a human. And so tell me a little bit about how self-compassion might have helped you along your journey, and how this plays into, and I know it's not just self-compassion, I know it overflowed into your experiences with faith that spurred you into this empowerment movement that you've got going on.
Absolutely. So as I said, creating the space in our home, creating the space within myself, and then as her parent, because at that time she's a baby, creating space for like within herself, even though it was unknown to her at the time. Well, I'm assuming it's unknown to her at the time. Yeah. All of those things played a factor. And that helped her as she was growing and getting older. I'm seeing the kindness come through. I'm seeing the compassion come through. I'm seeing that confidence come through. There, 6 months, she's there taking her steps, moving, saying some words, not because she's any smarter or anything else or faster moving or anything than any other child. It's just she felt confident within who she is and in her ability based on the space that was created. And it was empowering because I'm like, I'm seeing this working. Oh, I saw that working. And so I was working back and forth, within myself where I need to work, working with her where she needs to work, and then obviously looking at what are the results that are happening. So and one of the results, now fast forward from baby to about 2.5, a little bit over a half, Faith in December of 2019, Faith says to me, Mom, there's a unicorn scooter. Now I'm thinking this is on TV on the Family Channel, not knowing that this is in the Indigo catalog or magazine that they send out. I don't know if they send it out anymore. And she was looking at it on the dining room table every day because it was on there. And eventually, it was one day I was sitting with her at the table before I was sitting with her, we were eating. And she's like, Mom, the unicorn scooter. So I looked and I was like, oh, it passed, right? Before I turned off the TV. And then she's like, no, the unicorn scooter. And she's pointing in the book. And I was like, oh, there's the unicorn scooter. So I said to her, well, Faith, we could all have whatever we want. And I'm speaking to her like a normal, autonomous human being. I recognize she's a child. And I was like, Faith, we can all get whatever it is that we want. And in saying all of that, we also have to work for the things that we want. It's not just given like, oh, here you go, you're going to have this. You have to
take action.
Yeah. There's a system, there's a flow that happens. And then she was like, oh, and I said, if you want to get this, that's fine. You can help out around the house. Like you could help with Sparkle when I'm giving Sparkle food, and you could put the food in, and you could help with doing little chores around the house. And she was really happy. And she's like, yeah, I'll do that. And I was like, okay, so how much do you want to get paid for this? And then she's like 2 years old. And she's like, $2 is what she says, right? And I was like, okay, that's great. $2. A few days later, she goes to grandma's house, my mom's house. And she's helping my mom. She walked with her to the garbage and said, oh, I will hold something. She held a box. She's like, oh no, I'll put the soap in, I'll push the button. Like she was there. She helped for the day. And nighttime comes around, she's getting ready for bed. And she says to my mom, oh, I need my $2. And my mom says to her, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, I helped. And my mommy said, I help, I get $2. So I get a phone call like 8:30 at night saying to me, oh, you owe your daughter $2. I said, for what? No, I thought she forgot about all of this. Okay. I didn't think it was going to stick. I just was like, this is what it is. Now, it's not that I couldn't get the unicorn scooter. It's not that I was trying to deprive her of the unicorn scooter. At this point, I used that as a teaching lesson so she could understand there's a whole system at play here, right? That
steps. You want a thing, you desire a thing, and you take action to bring it into your reality. Yeah,
absolutely. Because that's part of, step one of the creating the space. So you can have that confidence to do that, right? Now is the action part. So I said, oh, just give it to her. And literally every single day, and she still helps out around the house. She worked, And one of my aunts, our aunt, her great aunt, invested, I think it was $10 into this unicorn scooter as well, because the whole family knew,
Yeah.
because it was like such a big deal that every day she was like, no, I did this, I deserve this. And every few days she was like, Mom, can I get the unicorn scooter now? And we'll go in and we would check the money and said, well, it's $50. It's going to do this. And I recognize, even with my mother, now this is where the compassion piece comes in and the confidence piece and all the pieces, right? My mother would say, oh, you need to buy it before they sell out. And I said, that's not the point. The point is not the unicorn scooter, right? And I'm not buying it because she needs to learn this. This is a lesson. This is what she chose to learn in this time. And that's where we're going with. And my mom actually went out and got the scooter and she hid it. And I said, you have done a disservice. So what I did now as this parent was, and this is in January of 2020, it comes around. It was a snowy, wintry, everyone like should have been home. I called them because she had the money and she asked me, and I said, okay, let me see if the store is open. I didn't even know if the store was open. And I called Indigo and they said, yes, they are open. And I was like, look, we have the scooter, but she needs to go through this process and she needs to like see it on your shelf and go through all of that. So yes, I enlisted the store's help.
Nice.
And she went in and she had her purse and she was so proud in that moment because she walked the whole store and she looked for it. Said, I'm not looking for it. This is not my journey, right? And she got it and they helped her and she paid the fee. And of course they gave it back to me. So I had to give my mom back the money. Yeah. But that whole process was a result of that compassion piece, that self-confident piece, that identification piece, all of the things, that action. And she felt so proud that when we were putting it together, because I needed help, we're putting it together, she was there. She's holding the stuff. She's opening the box. She wanted to be right there, fixing it to make sure that it was like done properly and it's exactly what you wanted. So that is how we actually got started. And this is where I see that all the work that I've done while I was pregnant, while she was a babe, even though she was still a babe at this time, like toddlerism, it's the result. Oh, wow. This is the cause, this is the effect, right?
Yeah, that is an example of empowering your children, allowing them, supporting them, guiding them, but really ultimately allowing them to create the experience for themselves with you just in the background, sort of helping, guiding, supporting.
Yes.
Then what happened?
And then, so that happened. And during that time, my mom had cancer. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. Before my daughter was born, she actually had a tumor in her throat by her thyroid. And when they removed it, it was thyroid cancer, but it hadn't spread. So that was removed. And then a few years later, Faith's born. She has breast cancer. And Faith and Sparkle were with her a lot. We had to move in at one point because Faith was like, oh, is she up yet? Like she'll wake up. She calls my mom, Mama, is Mama up yet? Was she okay? Oh, did you say your prayers? I have to go and see, did she eat properly? Did she do this? Did she do that? And I see the kindness. I see all the things that were spoken into her life. I see it as a result as well. And it's happening. And I'm allowing her to be this way. And once my mom recovered, now Faith is 3 years old. And this is a few months after the scooter incident. Faith's 3 years old. I want to sleep. It's like Faith's talking. Like I say, it's 12 o'clock in the night. Like, you need to go to bed. I need to sleep. I'm tired. Oh no, she's going on. And then she whispered, I'm a superhero doctor. And I'm like, what? I'm a superhero doctor. I can't hear you. You have to speak up. I'm a superhero doctor. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's nice. You're not listening to me. Right? You're not listening to me. And I said, okay, I'm up. So what do superhero doctors do? And she goes on and on and on. And it's like, oh, that's so lovely. I'm like, okay, now it's time to go to sleep. So after she got that out, time for her to go to sleep. And she's like, can we write about this? Yeah, of course. We could do homework. Yeah, it's no problem. Not thinking that she was already set up now with the unicorn scooter, being insistent, persistent, knowing what she wants, I'm going to do this. And I said, yeah, okay. And every single day, just like the unicorn scooter, when am I going to do my homework? When am I going to do my homework? I have to do my homework. I have to share this. And so we sat down like about a month later or something like that, almost 2 months later. I have this little video thinking it's just going to be a memory so I could show her, when you were 3, this is so sweet. This is where your mind was at. This is what I was thinking. And so, for 7 or 8 minutes or something like that, I'm there, I'm asking her questions. She's telling me what colors she wants, how, like what the cover is going to be like. This is what doctors do. This is what superheroes do. And she felt so proud at the end of it. But then I hear, can it be a real book? So that's what happened. This is how we started on this empowerment journey.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I know that her book has received great accolades. So tell us just briefly about that. And then I want to also then invite you to share a little bit more about what you're doing together. I know that you are both speakers. That you're getting out there, that you have some programs upcoming. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the book and where we can find that and all of the goodness around the book, and then a little bit about the other offers that you might have.
Absolutely. So her first book is Superhero Faith, second book, Dr. Faith. And these books are based on her experience when her grandma had cancer and what she did to be a superhero, how she identified as a superhero. And Dr. Faith is the exact same thing. You're still seeing her helping her grandmother, but now she's into school and she's seen someone hurt, and she's showing vulnerability, that power of vulnerability. And then she's showing self-confidence by fixing, her toys and such. So those books were just the catalyst. And then eventually we didn't promote workshops. We weren't doing mentorship. We weren't doing workshops, but I got a phone call and I was asked, oh, we would love to have Faith come in to do a reading. This was at a community center. And I said, great. And they said, yeah, she has an hour. And I was like, what? So I was like, Faith, do you want to do this? And she said, yeah. And I said, these are older kids. They're like between ages 7 and 11. So yeah. And she was all for it 100%, and go, well, you also have an hour. So we got to figure out what we're going to do in that hour. And it was just really incredible to see her come up with her own workshop for it. And that led into other people calling and saying, we need this workshop. And we found that these children, some of them older than her, some of them the same age and a bit older, they were really identifying not only with her, not only with the book, but with her message. And they're sharing and they're opening up these feelings, and some of them crying, and they're saying, I don't want to be seen as a bully. I don't want to be seen as aggressive. I don't want to be angry all the time. And these are little kids talking to her about this at these workshops. And this was just last year, if I might add. And I, in all honesty, was shocked. I was with her. I was co-facilitating the workshop with her because the topics that came up, the subjects that came up, I was in awe of it. I truly was. And so there was some really good stuff in there. And then it expanded into a mentorship program, which was great because, we worked with some organizations instead of one-on-one to get that out there. But so everything that has happened, she attracted, right? It stemmed from this creating peace, creating that space for her and allowing her and recognizing my part. Hey, I'm here to guide and support you. You have autonomy, but I'm the parent. I understand that there are things that I have to do and I want to do and I love to do. And, to help you on this journey, fast forward through all of these things, the results of the initial stage of that creating space she tells me last summer, right? 2022, Mom, I need to be on stage, right? So we went from books to the workshop to, Mom, I need to be on stage. So I said, oh, that's great. And she's like, no, I need to be on stage. And there's going to be like lots of people there. They're going to hear what I have to say because I have to teach them about kindness. First role comes up. This is the first speaking engagement. It started off with, oh, she could do a book and she has this time. And after that, so there was a Disney character there, and they were helping her on stage. It wasn't even a stage, just like a small group. It was in a play place. We get in the car and she's like, Mom, that was nice, but that's not what I wanted. And I go, well, what did you expect? Oh, you have to be on a stage with a microphone and a chair and lights with thousands of people. At that time, it was thousands of people. And I was like, well, this is why it is important to be clear about what it is that you want. Because you said to me you wanted to speak. I gave you you had an opportunity. Now, I didn't go out searching for that opportunity. That opportunity came, and I was like, oh, okay. So it was very similar to the mentorship and the workshop. Like, people came to us. And so I was like, and after that, now any speaking engagements that she has done, she has done educational workshops where she talk about kindness, and she used her experience with being bullied, receiving death threats, having no friends, how she can shift environments. Not only is she talking about kindness, but now shifting environments to empower other people, which is so powerful. And I'm like, wow, all of this stemmed from the initial beginning stages, right? And the work that was done. And she spoke actually this past weekend, she spoke at Nathan Phillips Square, like down there for Autism Speaks, for their big national walk. I guess it's the international walk because it's in Canada and the US, because she's one of the ambassadors. And so she's there talking about kindness, and they're inviting her to their, special events or more intimate events to speak and encourage executives. These are grown people with their kids that are there as well, right? So just so you guys know, it's not just adults she's speaking to, it's the adults with their children present that she is speaking. So the children are being encouraged as well, and they're being empowered as well. And so this is how everything has naturally unfolded. I know, sorry, I'm going on.
No. Just imagine though, if you didn't take her seriously, how we so often end up squelching our kids' big dreams by not taking them seriously. And the clarity comes in the action, right? The clarity came when she's, oh, okay, well, this was good, but like, nope, actually what I envisioned was bigger. And that clarity came from taking actions. And I think that so many parents could be well served to shift out of looking at our kids to thinking that they don't know what they're doing, or that they are, you see this often, that that their kids are being bad, especially that one. And if we can shift out of this idea that they are helpless, or that they are, willfully being bad, or any of these things, into our role as the guide, our role as the parent to listen to their big dreams and help them to, get clarity and create the path, we would have a world full of incredible leaders. And Absolutely. I know that you also have a part of this story that has to do with bullying. So I would love for you to share a little bit about that, because I know that's such a rampant problem. And I don't believe that the bully isn't like bad. They're not a bad kid either, right? So this is the tricky thing in navigating, but we need to have compassion, and we need to recognize, again, this idea that we're all doing the best we can with the resources and understanding we have, and that not everyone has had the same experience that we have. And so this is really tricky when someone else is being hurtful to us. It's very tricky to hold that compassion, but it's not impossible. And when we do, beautiful things happen.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. So when Faith started her school last year, it was great, right? She liked it. I loved the school. She loved the school. The teacher, incredible teacher. However, she had no friends because she was new to the school, and everybody knew each other from like the year before, 2 years before, and so that piece, she went in brand new, not knowing anyone, and no one wanted to be her friend. So she had to learn, hey, why don't I have a friend? So now she's thinking. So all the tools that I prepared her with, now she's on her own.
How old is she at this point, Delisa?
She was 5 years old last year at this point. So that's senior kindergarten.
Yep.
And so she knows, like, okay, I do well in English and math. I know my work. I've won awards for math. I've won awards for English. These are national awards with other organizations. So for her to go in senior kindergarten, I was like, Faith, just go and be a part of the group, and you can always go from there, right?
Yeah.
No one wanted to be her friend. And then this boy came. They were actually studying. It was the orange shirt day, but the orange shirt day extended into a month of learning about indigenous culture and people and all of these. And it's a beautiful lesson. And they heard the story about Brother Bear, and this young boy and another boy in the other class, they called her a bear. They said, "You're a bear, just like this character. You have no parents, and you just became a human. So people with your skin tone, that's what it is." And she felt really bad because this is the first time she's hearing something like this, and she cried. Now she has all this empowerment, but she cried because she felt really sad and hurtful. And
She's a human.
She's a human. Exactly. Exactly. So she let it out, and she told the teacher. The teacher let me know right away, but and the teacher did her part, the school did their part, but then coming with Faith at home, I was like, "Oh, what happened?" And so she's saying to me, "Felt really sad, and I was hurt, and if I'm supposed to be so confident now, she had her book published at 3, she's doing all these other workshops and stuff, and she's like, I can't believe I didn't say anything. I was so quiet. I cried." And I said, "There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. I'm glad you did it. You know why? Because this was the first time you heard it. So you were so shocked that you did the only thing you know how to do." So that gave her the confidence. And I said, the next time something like this happens, don't be afraid to use your voice. Because the first time it happened, she was like, I don't know what to say. Should I say anything? Do I like? And now she's like, okay, so we practice that. And this is something that we had to do. She was like, can we practice? Can you say something? She would say, can you say something mean to me? And I wouldn't say anything mean. I would just be like, oh, I don't want to play with you right now. So she had to recognize when someone says, I don't want to play with you, not take it personal, and recognize maybe they just don't want to play with you right now.
I think we all need this lesson. A lot of adults need this reminder too, that it's not hardly ever actually a personal thing. And so what I want to share is that when anybody says anything to you, even if they're saying it about you, it is ultimately a reflection of their perception of themselves and how they are currently feeling, perhaps in relation to you, but it actually has nothing to do with you. It is entirely to do with their perception, their feelings, their experience. And therefore, we can free ourselves from a whole lot of suffering and pain, which is exactly what you talked about earlier, is to say like, oh, that's, you say, you could judge me for all you want, but that's just your perception. It's not actually the truth for me.
Yes. Yeah. And so she had to learn that. And I know this is a very tough lesson for her to learn. Most kids don't learn this lesson, but as her parent, as her guide, as her biggest supporter, I was just on that journey with her, recognizing it doesn't matter what I say. It's how you feel and how you're going to respond. So I had to teach her how to respond instead of react.
Absolutely.
And of course, she had some training prior to that. She had training prior to that about those things, but it happened again. So we talked about the cycle, something happening again and again. And so this was the second time where she's feeling like someone doesn't, like, I don't feel loved here. And all of those pieces. But eventually she learned, okay, you know what? I'm going to be myself. What do I know? Who am I? She went back to herself. Who am I? Oh, I'm Faith, and I'm kind, and I'm this. And I go, well, when you're there, how are you going to treat them? I'm going to treat them kindly. And that's what she did. I didn't even have to say anything. That's what she did. Someone didn't want to play with her. She was okay. Someone needed help in the classroom with something. She was there. She didn't get in the boy's space, but if he needed help, she was there, and she was kind to people. And there was another girl that a month later called her some mean names, right? Because she was trying to get into the popular group. And so I had to let her know, hey, Faith, why would this girl say this? Why do you think she would say this? Does she have any friends? And Faith was like, actually, no, she doesn't have any friends. She asked me to be my friend, but then I realized she's not really my friend, because if someone plays with her, then she dumps me and like calls me a name. And I said, okay, So now you're recognizing and you're discerning what a real friend is. Who do you want to be? What type of friend you want, as well as setting boundaries with this person. And that's when she was also using her words and saying, I am not this. Are you this? And then all of a sudden, when she started opening her mouth, that's what she does. The shocked expression comes upon them. And because they're not trained to use their voice in a particular way, they don't even know how to respond to it. And she shifted the environment around her. The school adopted this teacher's methodology. And then Faith's there at the center leading this charge with her kindness. And then she got a friend. And one friend turned into 2 and 3 and so on. And eventually things, for months, things settled down. But of course, now we're going into the 3rd month. The same bully, seen this popularity. He was kind of on the outs for a bit, but she still treated him with respect and kindness. He comes in and, said the things that he said and made the death threat to her. And instead of crying at that moment, she was like, Mom, I felt so scared and sad. She was scared and sad that this boy would say this to her. Why would he say this in the lunchroom in front of other kids? So that was just so disheartening for her. But I said, Faith, what did you do? So she's telling me this after school in the parking lot before we drive off. And she said, I sat there and I ate my lunch. I said, what? And she's like, I said, you didn't get up, you didn't leave? She said, no, I didn't feel the need to leave. I was hungry. I was eating my lunch. And she's like, is that wrong? Should I have run away or something? And I go, no, that's how you chose to respond. You chose not to say anything because you didn't know how serious he was and you didn't know what he was going to do in that moment. And you still stood your ground. You looked at him and you were eating your food. And so
it's confidence.
I said, you just actually showed him who you really are. This is why he said, I want your power for myself. He told her this. I want your power. Well, he used a different word, but I want it for myself. I said, I myself as a parent was completely shocked. Now, of course, I empathize with his parents and with the situation because it's never easy. No parents want this phone call. No parents want to hear that, period. Yeah. So I empathize. But Faith's response and how she chose to take that incident, that situation, and transform it to share with other children, powerful. So at conferences that she spoke at, the educational conferences and the military base, at the family center, even down in the breakfast for some of the big organizations that we do philanthropy work for, she shares that. And she's like, you can shift an environment. You could shift the energy of a space through your kindness, through your empowerment, through your confidence. And then she tells parents, because I'll be like, Faith, at the end, I'm like, Faith, is there anything else you want to say? And she would tell them, parents, listen to your children. That's it.
Because we all want to be heard. We all want our voices to be heard. And I think that if we are acting from a place of love, there is room for everyone to stand in their power, right? And yes, creating that is what empowers people. Creating a loving, accepting space full of compassion allows people to stand strong in their personal power. This is empowerment.
Yes.
So how can our listeners who might want to learn more get in touch with you guys?
Visit us at www.faithandsparkles, there's an S at the end of sparkles, world.com. And on social media at Faith and Sparkles World.
Awesome. And I know that you have a ton of wisdom. So try to narrow down from all of the possibilities. I would love for you to share something practical that our listeners can use, that they can go ahead and implement today to start empowering their children, to maybe start empowering themselves in the same process, right? Because this is something that we do best when we go first as the parent, so that we can model that empowerment, that standing in our power, that authentic using and expressing our truth. So I'd love to hear what you might suggest for a practical action today.
Practical action, create the space. Create the space by putting on high vibration, high energetic, either affirmations, something that aligns with you, or empowerment message, or life-giving message. I don't know, whatever word you want to use, and put it in the home. Put it on for the hour that it is. And when you start listening to that, it sinks into your subconscious. It sinks into your children's subconscious. I am not telling you this because I'm grabbing it from the sky. I actually did that with my daughter when she was in the womb, after she came out of the womb, and we continue to do it. There are days, and I still use a CD player that I would put on like some music, right? And the music is, life-giving music. It's talking about love. It's speaking about kindness, right? The words that we're listening to, that is what is etched into us to continue to build us. So that is the most simplest thing that you can do for yourself and for your children.
Yeah, that is an incredible tip, because it really can, without a lot of, just setting the intention. It doesn't take a lot of effort to listen. It's like you said, creating the space with intention. And by doing that, it just really allows us to build ourselves up, to have the confidence, to stand in our power, to remember who we are and act from a space that's aligned with that. So that's an incredible tip. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're so welcome. And one of the effects of doing this in the home, your children will bond because they will ask you questions. Why are we listening to this? What does this word mean? Why am I doing that? Oh, I didn't understand that. How is this going to help me? Yeah. And it's those questions that are going to be the building blocks, and those questions and your response, that your welcoming response, let me be clear, that welcoming response is going to help lay that foundation for your strengthening the bond, growing your relationships, and helping them and you be empowered.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of your incredible insights, your story about faith and the incredible things that you are doing together as your spectacular trio. And I'm just so grateful to have shared this incredible conversation with you. My wish for everyone is that they will feel this incredible power behind this message of kindness and really be able to take it on board, really become empowered through this message. Because when we go first, we create this model for our children and for other people, and it gives them permission to follow along and be themselves as well. So thank you all for listening. I love you. And let's go do some epic shit, shall we? Mwah! If you're ready to go a little bit deeper and do the work for yourself, my book, Unstuck for Women, is going to help you to create your personalized spiral stopper using my spiral stopper method in order to shut down all that overthinking and overwhelm that have been keeping you stuck in your current patterns. I'm going to explain inside the book how your brain works and why it might not be currently helping you to accomplish your goals and how to change that. I'm also super excited to announce the upcoming launch of my brand new course, the Get the Fuck Unstuck Adventure. In this course, you are going to learn how to accept yourself as a whole-ass human, perfectly imperfect, just as you are. You'll discover how to free yourself from unnecessary pain and suffering. You'll learn how you can look and feel better in your body right now. You'll learn to understand yourself better in order to intentionally create the experiences you desire. And of course, you're going to learn how to stop merely surviving so you can finally start thriving. This adventure contains 21 perspective shifts that are going to take you from stuck in survival mode to consciously creating as your next level self. So join us, try on a few new perspectives, play with a few new possibilities, and become more intentional with your life. Registration is open and the course kicks off on February 6th. If you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to head on over to my website at gtfu.ca for some sweet goodies and bonuses that are going to help you get the fuck unstuck, starting right now. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.